Hello, everybody. It's Hope Wiseman here with another episode of The Mainline. I'm really excited about today's episode because it's with a good friend of mine. You all know me as the youngest African-American woman to own a dispensary in the United States, but I'm going to bring to you the first African-American woman to own a dispensary in the United States. So Wanda, can I get you up on the stage?
Hey, how are you?
They're good. How are you?
I'm cold.
I'm cold too. It is definitely cold here in Maryland as well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy out here in Colorado.
I bet. Is it snowing?
Now, it's that sunny, cold, 20 degrees sunny day, which is misleading.
Very misleading. You wake up and
Mm-hmm.
very confusing. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your early afternoon or late afternoon, I guess you could say, our early evening.
Hey, anytime my girls call and say, hey, can you talk? I'm going to be like, yeah, of course I can talk. We always got time to talk.
Right. And I mean, we have quite the journeys to talk about. You, even more so. I mean, you're like extremely, I could say you are probably the pioneer that inspired me the most in this industry. And even like past just me trying to break into the industry, all the conversations we've had moving forward, it just really keeps me inspired to know that there's someone that's been doing it longer, probably experienced even more hurdles than me, and is still alive and kicking and really thriving. So I love to watch your progress.
It's so funny because it's alive and kicking, in different forms of alive and kicking on different places. I mean, I always want to start off these talks because everybody thinks that this is easy, what we do, and they see the interviews and they see you looking amazing and, on TV or at some fantastic place. And they don't see all of the hurdles, what happened 10 minutes before the taping, that, the police are at your place, or that you ran out of sativa, or that your farm got shut down because who knows? I mean, there's a whole litany of things, that tends to have happened in this industry, that don't end up on, interviews or on all the fun things that people see on social media. So this is hard, and congratulations to you. You're killing it up there in Maryland. So we're proud of you. And there's so few of us. I mean, I think that we know, well, I'm going to say outside of California and maybe some of the new people coming in from Illinois, we know all of the dispensary owners in the United States.
Yeah.
We all know each other. Black dispensary owners. We all know each other.
Sometimes that like really blows my mind when I think about it. I'm like, oh, I'll go look him up. I'm like, oh, I know him. I know her. No, it's like, oh, I like literally have all these people's phone numbers in my phone.
Yep.
Like, wow, there's really a whole handful of us, literally.
A handful.
Yeah.
One handful.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people watching this probably will have heard your story before, but just for those few that haven't, can you give us like a quick abbreviation of how you started your business, and then maybe some of the hurdles that you've gone through?
Sure. My husband and I are serial entrepreneurs. Before cannabis, I've been in politics for 20, 25 years. From everything from working on Barack Obama's National Finance Committee to running Congressman Jared Polis's, now Governor Jared Polis's campaign when he first ran for Congress, to working with different initiatives. I mean, politics has always been my piece, in this world. And when we found out that the Obama administration was going to allow for states to be able to operate without any interference from the United States, from the federal government, we decided to put a black face on cannabis because of what happened to my brother. My brother was 18 years old when he was arrested for 4 ounces of cannabis. And back in the day, you've got to remember, for all you OGs out there, you had a baggie, a sandwich bag, and that was, a lid, or, $40, $30, $20, $10. My brother had about $160 worth of street cannabis on him, and it cost him 10 years of his life. But the most shocking part about that is when he went to a privatized prison system, my Black brother picked 100 pounds of cotton every day for 4 years to purchase his freedom. And that to me is cruel and unusual punishment. It was disgusting. I thought at the time when I first heard it, I thought that my brother's story was horrible. And, how would that happen? And then you find out that in the United States at the time before legalization, that happened 800,000 times a year. When we talk about mass incarceration, we're talking about nonviolent cannabis drug arrest for the most part. Black and brown boys between the ages of 17 and 24 for the most part. And from there, we did this. I'm not going to say we didn't think it was going to be a good business, which we can talk about how good of a business it has been or not been. But we did this because we wanted to be political. We wanted to be able to put a political face on it. We wanted to say that these Black people are selling weed, and to be able to shine a light on the atrocities that had been happening, prior. And that was 11 years ago. So who knew 11 years ago that this was going to be the outcome?
I think that, the purpose behind you starting your business makes a big difference. A lot of people get into this industry because they want to make money. Yep. Or they think that, it's going to be
they think they're going to make money.
They think they're going to make money. They think that it's going to be an overnight success, and then it's like you're going to be a multi-millionaire tomorrow and you get a license. Yes, that is not the case. So you definitely have to have purpose behind what you're doing. So this was 11 years ago for you. So this is much earlier than most people were even thinking about the cannabis industry, especially on the East Coast. Nobody was really thinking about it yet.
You know what? Very few Black folks were thinking about it. Folks in California, I think had definitely thought about it on the medicinal levels, and they had their, what were they called? Not coalitions. I just forgot the word. They were building their teams for medical marijuana out in California, but nobody had seen it become this big retail, monolith that it has, and definitely back in 2009, it wasn't about making money. It was really honestly about not going to jail. When we started, we opened up our first dispensary for about $250,000, not a lot of money at all. But what we did spend money on is you had your business attorney, you had a legal attorney, you had a criminal attorney, and you had a cannabis attorney. So, the criminal part and the legal part was really what guided you. Absolutely, 100%, hands down.
Totally. Okay, so now let's talk about, it's probably what everybody who's watching right now is thinking. Let's talk about why we're saying it's not an instant gold mine, and kind of like what you really can expect as a dispensary owner. We haven't even gotten to like the whole licensing process and all that stuff yet, but let's say you get past there, you get a license, right? What should you really expect?
Well, that's a tough question. So you're saying you got the license and the location and you're open, or you just got the license and you're still trying to find a location and try to get open? These are all, and hope you know that you and I have talked about this. We've talked about it in Vegas. We talk about it every time we get together, but this industry does not generate the kind of income that you think that it would, and most of that is because of 280E. And I'm amazed at how many times I'm still speaking to folks that tell me, well, I really want to get a dispensary and I'm going through the process. And when I say, well, have you accounted for 280E in your business model? They blank out. And honestly, if you don't know what 280E is, you're not even remotely ready to even think about opening up a dispensary, because 280E is going to take 40 to 60% of your income off the top.
Yep, right off the top. And then as a dispensary, you're purchasing your medicine wholesale.
Yep.
Likely, you're marking it up 100%. So that's 50% of your revenue.
Yep.
And then, 60% on top of that is more revenue than you actually had. So that actually means that you are going to have to put in money.
Yep.
The people who are able to survive this are very smart business people, aka us. We have learned how to stay afloat until things change. And I want to talk more about like licensing and all that stuff. But while we're on this subject, what do you think the probability of something happening at the federal level now that we've had an administration change is? And then how do you think that could affect us?
So the change on the federal level has to happen, mostly driven by California. I don't know if you've seen the reports, but Colorado hit $2 billion in sales as of November of last year. We're still waiting for the December sales to come out, but end of November, we did $2.2 billion with a B in little teeny weeny Colorado out here. So the money is coming in. But when you talk about the 280E tax, we have no depreciation. No, I'm not saying no write-offs. We have very minimal write-offs, which basically equates to no write-offs. So all of the business expenses we don't get to take advantage of. We don't get to depreciate our computers or our chairs or anything like that in the business. So federal legalization will almost double what our businesses are worth, our valuation of our businesses. What does that mean? It means two things. On the positive side, it means that hopefully for most people that have been, fighting through these years and have run a decent business, hopefully you become cash flow positive almost immediately, hopefully.
Right.
It also gives us the opportunity, which I think is key, to be able to go to banks and to the SBA to be able to get lines of credit and loans to be able to better your business. Because as you know, right now, if I want to get new lights for my dispensary and it costs $200,000, I've got to go to someone that wants to lend me the money. And everybody knows that we can't go to a bank. So a lender wants 20% of my business, of my multi-million-dollar business, to loan me $200,000 for my lights. You know what I mean? So it becomes absurd when you're dealing with that type of, loan sharking going on. And then, being Black and brown, as we've talked about it, it's difficult because we just can't call up mom and dad or a brother and sister and be like, yo, you guys, I need $1 million. It doesn't work that way for us. Right. Mm-hmm. So this is a ridiculously difficult process. I really look forward to legalization. I think that it's going to be a good thing moving forward, but it's not going to come without its challenges, right? Because for all of the money that it's going to loosen up for us, it's also going to loosen up for all of the large multi-state operators, for the folks that have been definitely sharking the industry over the last couple of years. So it's going to be a really interesting play to see what happens once the federal legalization opens up.
Yeah, I definitely, I've been seeing some congressional leaders, like I saw Senator Cory Booker has recently said that something has to get done this, soon. So, there's more push now than there ever has been. Yeah. If I can predict anything, I think something along the lines of the States Act is going to pass. The MORE Act, I'm not as convinced, especially with all the pushback from advocates about the lack of social equity and social justice and criminal justice reform in the bill. They kind of are making it'll reverse a lot of the social equity provisions that we've been able to get into a lot of the state programs.
You know what? It will, but the States Act doesn't have any of those provisions, right? The States Act just allows for banking, which both of them do, which is important. It's amazing how these bills go into a committee, looking nice and sharp, how we want them to look, and come out on the other side as something that nobody recognizes, and the idea that we have cut social equity not social equity, but allowing activists to be actually a part of this and visionaries to be a part of this really seems counterproductive. And I'm still kind of curious how that happened with the MORE Act. I really am.
Yeah, same. Well, okay. So as you were going through your licensing process, this was early. So this is way before anyone here in Maryland. It was super early. How did you navigate that process? How did you figure out? So you did say that you were politically connected and you were already in the political world. And as we know, cannabis right now is controlled by government entities. So that makes sense. But, how did you navigate the process?
You know what? I mean, we all made it up. There wasn't a license for cannabis, and they basically told us, the city of Denver says, well, figure out a business that's closest to what the license that you're doing. So most of us ended up with a wellness wellness license, and wellness was everything from a yoga studio to massage to, you know, whatever. I mean, it was just, there was just nothing there. So you got your license, and then you try to back end this new industry or this new business into an existing framework. I mean, the good thing about it is you made it up as you went. You know, people show up at your dispensary with a bag of weed, and, you know, or backpack full of weed, and you take it in the back, you roll it up, you try it, you're like, yeah, this is great. You know, we'll take it. There was no testing. There was no heavy metals testing. There was no mold and mildew.
Sounds fun. I wish that I got to be a part of that type of the industry, because that is what my life is like now.
I mean, it was edible makers would show up, and they're like, hey, we got chocolate cups. Like, what's in them? They're like, chocolate, peanut butter. I'm like, you know, how, and they'd come in, and then it got to be really funny, because it was like, well, it's 2 times dose. Well, what was 1 times dose? No one knew.
So
I mean, it was really crazy times. I mean, and it was interesting, you know, but like I said, the biggest issue was, you know, we had gotten raided during that time, and that was scary when cops come and they bust down your door, and, you know, guys in Kevlar suits come, you know, crashing through your windows. Thank God we weren't there when it happened. But I mean, it's scary, you know, for someone that was, you know, never intending on having a run-in with the police. So it was definitely a fun time. A lot less stressful when it comes to licensing. And then all of the rules and regulations came in, and in Colorado, they became so restrictive that anybody that had had a felony conviction could not participate in the industry at all. You couldn't be an employee, you couldn't be an owner. So basically, we cut out just about every Black and brown person that would have been a visionary in this industry from participating back in the early days, which is why social equity is so important right now, to be able to give back to those individuals that would have been left out at the very beginning.
what social equity provisions has Colorado put in place since then? You're like,
oh, you know, it's okay. So the governor's office just put up $4 million to start a new Office of Minority Advancement in the Office of Economic Development for cannabis. $5 million, you can get up to, I think, a $250 loan to start your business if you're a social equity applicant. Here in Denver, they're going to allow all of the next new licenses, supposedly hasn't cleared yet, to be social equity. But the problem is they're going to allow 8 new dispensary licenses in Denver, which are going to be social equity, but there are no locations available in Denver to put a dispensary. So I don't know how they're going to address that without that being extremely just horribly racist. Like, yeah, we'll give all y'all a license, but just know where to put your dispensary. So, you know.
right. Huh. It's funny. And then you said $250?
250,000, up to 250,000. I believe.
Okay, I was just making sure there was a
Oh, did I say 250? Well, 250,000, it might as well be 250, because what are you going to do with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to do your build out, or maybe that'll pay for your opening inventory, but that's just one piece of the pie.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if that would even get all your opening. It might get some of your opening inventory, but yeah, I mean, it's, you know, and that's the other thing people don't realize, you know, opening a dispensary now is expensive, you know, so, and there's only 2 ways to do it. You can go buy a dispensary, which is going to cost you $2.5 million minimum, up to $148 million if you buy numerous, you know, dispensaries, or you figure out how to start it from scratch, which is a time crunch that you've got to have money in place for a very long time.
Yeah, I'd even like to say that, you know, for me, why I decided to go aggressively towards the license in 2014, when I first got turned on to the industry and I realized what was happening, I realized that I had a short window to get in with the type of resources that I had. Yeah. You know, I'm not a multimillionaire. My mother is not a multimillionaire. We don't have, there's not long old money and a lot of political connections in my house. So I understood that, okay, that means I have to be an early adapter. That means that I have to get in while it's on the ground floor. That means that that's my only opportunity. So as scary as it was for me to kind of leave my career path and jump into this, you know, head first, I knew that that was kind of my only opportunity. And I do feel like the window is slowly closing for people that were like us, for you 11 years ago and for me 6 or 7 years ago. Like, I think that the window is closing, but now is the time with all of the social equity provisions that are in most of these laws. I think now is the time.
I mean, let me put it this way, it's not going to get easier and it's not going to get cheaper. Those two things are definitively for sure. The only thing that I think that legalization will do for us is allow us to be able to at least go to a bank and say, at least if you have a license in your hand to be able to open up a dispensary, there is a good monetary value to that, in which you should be able to qualify for, lines of credits and real loans to be able to open up your business. So you're not at the, mercy of an MSO or, unscrupulous loan sharks that want to come in and take all your equity while you're trying to build. I mean, this is a tough business, you know what I mean? And then even once you get open, congratulations, but now you've got issues in sourcing. I mean, we don't have some issues in Colorado sourcing just because we are a mature market here, but almost every other state that I talk to people in, they can't keep, product on their shelves. They can't find decent product to find. They can't get enough edibles. They can't get enough oil. I mean, it's like having a retail business and no supply chain. It's difficult.
I think my biggest thing when I talk to people from other industries that is really difficult for them to understand is that we really have like absolutely no interstate commerce. So, I mean, if you have desires to scale your business, one, not only is that difficult because there's licensing in place, and in most places it's limited, and or zoning restrictions that will allow for more, like how you said in Denver, there are really no more locations. I think that people have to understand that if you want to scale your business, and let's say you have a retail store in one place and you have a product line and you have another retail store in another state, you can't ship your products that you manufactured in one state to the next. So you have to duplicate this in every state that you want to operate in. And that can become extremely expensive and sometimes almost impossible. Sometimes it's very difficult for people to duplicate products over states. It's just hard. And then not to mention, now you have spent all this money building out infrastructure in all these states. And then one day things are going to change and interstate commerce will be allowed and you will be millions and millions of dollars in the hole. So it is difficult. People ask me about stocks, of these cannabis stocks, like, oh, what do you think? And all that stuff. And I'm like, this is what I think. I think they're going to be winners and I think they're going to be losers. I don't think we know who they are at all yet. I don't think it's obvious almost at all who the winners and the losers are going to be. But one thing I do know is I think the people with the least amount of infrastructure, physical infrastructure, are probably closer to being the winners than those who have cultivation centers in every state.
You know what? It's so funny. And I think that this is, I'm not gonna put it in terms of male, female, but every guy that I talk, and guys out there listening, don't send me nasty emails that don't take no heat, but men just love to want to talk about the size of their cultivation. I got 100,000 square feet of cultivation in so-and-so city. And I'm like, well, that's great, because in a few years when everything is legal, everything is going to be grown in a place where they grow grapes. Growing
the field that El Chapo was growing on, that's where we're going to be getting our stuff from.
Because interstate commerce, and that's something else people have got to understand, that the only reason why cannabis is expensive is because it's been illegal to harvest, right? So you take your life in your own hands and you've got to do these little small grows so that no one knows, and off the grid, and all these different things that you've got to do to be able to grow good cannabis, which makes it expensive. Once it's no longer federally illegal to grow, I mean, it will be like growing, cabbage, tomatoes, Brussels sprouts, almonds. I mean, all of those are difficult products to grow, produce to grow. And we figured out how to do it, and we'll do the same with cannabis, And then my husband and I have been restaurant owners as well for 25 years, is you can source the level of produce that you want. I mean, there are, forgive me, I'm not a chef, but I mean, high-end tomatoes. Maybe there's heirloom tomatoes that are going to cost you more than, cherry tomatoes or whatever it may be. And cannabis will be the same way, as we're able to source it and bring it in once interstate commerce is allowed to happen. Products, on the other hand, is where you can, I think, make your name.
Because and brands.
products and brands, because we all have our favorite, Heath Bar, Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, whatever it may be. And there are other knockoffs of Reese's Peanut Butter Cups out there. But you know what? I want the taste of the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, not the, Joe Blow Peanut Butter Cup, right?
Yep.
So I think that you can make your name off of, developing those products early on. But man, cannabis and cultivation, that's going to be an ag job, so folks are in agriculture, and it's going to be a farming type of a situation once we go big.
Definitely. What do you think about the future of retail? What do you think is going to happen with our stores? And do you think that there's a possibility that the federal government may try and change the framework around how we're able to distribute cannabis?
I don't think that the feds are going to do it, to be honest with you, because I think that the horse is way too far out the barn. I mean, California, and as much as people want to talk, bad about California not getting their collective act together, they will. And that's a lot of money, a lot of customers, and a lot of products, right, coming out of there. So no, I don't think that we're going to change how we do it. Now, state by state, I mean, there are still some states, from what I understand, I don't know, I think they're East Coast states, where the alcohol beverage control still actually sells liquor, that you can't just get it from.
Like Virginia. Virginia has ABC stores, South Carolina, ABC
there you
stores.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I've never lived in those states. I've never had that problem. but I mean,
Virginia's a funny one. I'll say that. The Commonwealth.
It's crazy, right? To think that you have to buy your liquor from the government. I mean, that's an interesting stance. So state by state, we may end up with some of that weirdness. County by county, I hear that there's a few counties in Texas that are still dry counties, or in Nebraska that are still dry counties, or Utah. You'll see that. Did you know you can't get coffee in Utah?
What?
Did you know this? What made me think about that? We did a road trip this summer. We get myself in trouble telling myself. So we did a road trip this summer, and of course, you pride yourself on being able to get cannabis no matter where you're at, right? So, cannabis is never hard for a dispensary owner to find anywhere in the entire 50 states. But coffee, girl, if someone would have told me Utah didn't have coffee, that is my one addiction. I mean, for a good 4 hours trying to find coffee in Utah, I lost my mind. Lost my mind. I had to go like all morning with no coffee. That was just. Ooh. But like that, you'll have different states, different counties that want to put weirdness on how stuff is sold. But no, I think the dispensaries will always be here. I think that we'll end up with great competition. I think you'll be able to get it in bulk at Whole Foods Market.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll be able to pick up a pack of joints at 7-Eleven. But, in California, you can buy wine at 7-Eleven, but I don't think that I'm buying my wine at 7-Eleven. So, I mean, I think that we'll all break out on the level of cannabis that we feel comfortable with, right? I think there will always be dispensaries, just like there are always great wine shops or great whiskey stores. And I hate comparing it to alcohol, but I think that that's how it'll play out.
Yeah, and I don't like to compare it to alcohol, but I do it as well because it's easy for people to comprehend. As well, we know there was a stigma around alcohol at one point, and it's been completely eradicated to the point where now, I mean, people have business meetings over drinks. And at this point, I guess it's not appropriate to say we're having a business meeting over a joint, but for us it is. And
wait a minute. We've been in business meetings over joint.
Yeah, I'm like, we've definitely done that, but it's appropriate for us. But we are working to make that a normalcy. Even within our family. And I want you to talk about a little bit, like as a mom and as a wife, like how you talked about cannabis to your parents and your brother, your family, your outside family, and your kids, like what that's like, kind of being a pioneer and leading the charge when other people are not there yet.
So I'm not a mom.
I did not know that.
I'm not a mom.
You had a kid. Okay.
No, I can't keep plants alive. So keeping a child alive, I don't know. It's scary. It's a scary thought all the way together.
I probably don't have kids, so interesting. We get along so well.
I never feel like I'm old enough to be a mom. I'm at this point probably almost too old to be someone's grandmother, but I'm just like, I just don't feel like I'm ready for that yet, So, I mean, I think what is interesting though is a lot of my friends have kids, and children are around a lot in cannabis families, and we talk about it. So you remember growing up, you'd go over to the Blackwell's house on a Sunday afternoon, and mom and dad would be hanging out, and you get to hang out with Joey and Carol Blackwell, and kids are running all around the house, and moms and dads, everybody else is barbecuing out and back, and they got some beer, or they got their Hennessy, or they got whatever's going on. The kids are running in between, and I don't ever remember looking at my dad drinking a beer and going, "Oh my God, what's my dad doing? He's drinking a beer." I mean, it was never a thing or a big deal or anything else. And I will say that ironically, in my world, and especially here in Colorado, because of how normal it is, it's very much that way in the summertime. You go to somebody's house who is a dispensary owner and they've got kids, cannabis is passed in the same way that, beer or, wine is passed. And the kids seem to understand perfectly well that this is a grown-up thing. You know what I mean? Just like they don't run around, with bottles of beer in their hand. They're not asking for joints either. It's pretty amazing when you make something normal and you don't, as a parent or as an adult, you don't act, secretive about it. I mean, kids kind of fall into, whatever. And ironically, I don't drink, I mean, I don't not drink. I mean, I'll have a beer, but it's not my thing of choice. And my mom is European, and alcohol in my house was never a big deal. If I wanted it, I could have it at any age. It was always there. And I laugh because I remember this yellow bottle of Galliano that sat on our bar for probably 19 years. I think it was there from the time I went to college. I was like, is anyone ever going to drink this stuff? What is this, I mean, it was just never a big deal. And ironically, I think that I'm seeing that with my friends' children that are in the cannabis business. Their kids are kind of like, whatever. If my mom and her old ladies are smoking it, then I'm not even interested in, dealing with it. So.
Yeah, I have a 15-year-old brother, and I know when my mom and I started, I have two brothers, but the other is an adult. But the 15-year-old, when he started, he was curious about what this plant was, and we told him, what it was. We let him smell it. We let him look at it. And now he's educated about it. He can go to school and talk about it. I'll never forget, he wore one of our T-shirts to school one day when he was in middle school, and they sent him home. And he came home and he was like, I told them it was a medicine. I'm confused. And, it's just, that pure, the bliss of ignorance, when you don't know that everyone around you has this stigma.
An idea about it.
He doesn't know, in his household, there's none of that.
Exactly.
And like now that he's older, he always says to me, he's an athlete, and he's like, well, I don't want to smoke or do anything like that right now because I know my body is still developing and I want to be able to get to the best version of myself I can be. And I look at him and I go, I taught you
right
well.
on. Yep, right on, right. And those are exactly the conversations, give yourself time to grow. This is a fine plant, and I look forward to experimenting with it when you're 21 years old, and we'll even have some great champagne on Sunday morning, we'll figure it all out, but I think it's just perfectly normal. And even when we look at our dispensary, one of the things about our dispensary, clearly there's all types of security measures that we have, so things can't get robbed or our staff is safe. But I like to say that it's the Tiffany version of security, right? If you go into Tiffany's and you're trying on, $95,000 diamonds or $100,000 diamonds, they're going to let you do it. And you can try on all kinds of stuff, and have fun with it. And you may not realize that you're on camera and that the four guys standing over there, in and about the door are, packed to the punch, you know what I mean? And there's all kinds of things all around there because you're engrossed in the experience of Tiffany's and you're looking at that great diamond, not some dude with a pit bull and a AK-47 on his shoulder. You know what I mean? So we want you to be comfortable because we really want to take away any of the negative connotation around cannabis that there is at the store, how we talk about it in our lifestyle. It just needs to be positive all the way around, and I think in Colorado that we've gotten to that point of mass saturation to where the general public here is not. If you sit down with 4 of your friends at dinner, 3 of them are growers and they're going to pull out, their best bud and show it all around. Everybody's going to be holding it up to the sky. Oh, wow, look at those crystals, so it's going to be all of that, right?
We're not quite there yet in Maryland, but that's exciting. And maybe with adult use pending, we'll be there in the next 5 to 7 years or so. But
it'll be shorter.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty. So my prediction for anyone watching in Maryland, I think that we have a chance of legalizing this year. And if not, we definitely will next year.
Yeah.
That's kind of what everyone's saying. And I'm involved in a lot of those conversations. So that's definitely what I'm hearing from every angle.
I would be surprised if anywhere on the East Coast that was up for an election this year is not going to legalize. No, that any place won't legalize, that they will legalize this year, because they've got to know that it's coming. And I think the one thing that most legislators understand as well too is, even though that the individual business owners may not make a lot of money from it, I mean, let's be real here, the states and the federal government are the big dogs in cannabis right now. They're the ones that are clearly, if I made half the money at the state of Colorado, half the percentage the state of Colorado made, I'd be a happy camper, right? So
exactly. I know the state of Maryland last year did. And we're just medical right now. We have a little bit over 100,000 patients, I think 130,000 patients. Mm-hmm. And we did 460 million last year. So just last month, they did $46 million here. So, I mean, it's doing really well. And I actually think Maryland tracks Colorado pretty well. Because we have the same population, one. And just when you look at the numbers, just things were very similar. So it's exciting to hear that you guys just hit 2 billion. That's crazy. How many dispensaries are in Colorado?
That's the other crazy part. I haven't looked for a while, but about 717.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's 100 right now, or 96 in Maryland medical that will all have an opportunity to be grandfathered in. And then they'll be issuing more licenses. Right now, I'm hearing there's a 200 number out there. There's a 100 number out there. And then there's like 47, that number, because that's one per senatorial district. So we'll see. If you could give a state a recommendation on whether to go smaller and grow, or start big and let the market kind of do what it's going to do, let the winners win and the losers lose, what do you think?
I knew you were going to ask me that as we started talking about it. And, this is always such a quagmire. So my basic business sense is that you let free market happen. This is a tough business. I don't care if you give out 1,000 licenses, only 500 are going to survive. Because if you don't understand HR, if you don't understand marketing, if you don't understand, product development, if you don't understand shelf space, and how you're allocating all of that stuff, I mean, you're not going to be a winner in this industry. It's just tough. So I think that the industry itself would weed out, no pun intended, the folks that, should not be in the industry. However, when you do that, for the folks that are in it already, yourself, myself, and the other 7 Black owners across the nation that we're aware of, it makes our business not as valuable for the years that we've put in. And when you limit those licenses, though, all that does is give a huge entree into the MSOs, because they've got the team in place, they've got the writers in place, they've got the patting off to the, people on the panels, in place to be able to ensure that if there's only 6 licenses given out, I guarantee you that they're all going to go to rich white-backed hedge funds, hedge fund type companies. They'll choose one Black company, and prop it up and say that, this is the Black company that, that's going to get it. But it leaves out all the other folks that are there as well, too. So, I mean, because we compete in Colorado, I'm kind of like, hey, let it happen and figure it out. There's no limit on restaurants. My husband and I did fine in the restaurant industry for 25 years. So, it, there's no easy answer that's going to make everybody happy. I'd be happier with a lot fewer dispensaries in Colorado, but with more minority-owned dispensaries in Colorado. So if we could trade out some of the white-owned dispensaries for black-owned dispensaries, I guess that'd be a good thing. But it's not going to happen quite that way either. So I don't know.
I kind of feel the same way. I see the argument on both sides. In a limited licensed state like Maryland, I definitely see the benefit of it being limited. I like oversaturation is, I mean, will it really be great for the industry? I don't know. I think that while the state, it doesn't really feel comfortable, and while the inspection process and all of that is figured out, I think that that's why we have to keep it limited in the beginning, so the states can figure it out. And it kind of sucks because, like you said, it's like we're putting in all this time and effort, and we're jumping through all these hoops, and then one day all the hoops will be removed, and people are just going to come in, and I'm going to be looking at them like, wow, you don't even know half of what it really used to be like. But at the same time, I am proud to break down barriers and shatter glass ceilings alongside you, to be able to make way for other Black women to be in the space.
I think that we're opening up all kinds of doors for people that hadn't thought about it. And I've always said, for me, it feels like I've given people permission to do this, and permission to be proud about it. Because, I didn't start smoking weed 11 years ago. You know what I mean? I've been smoking since I was, people hate when I say this, parents hate it, but I've been smoking since I was 16. And I would have chosen cannabis over alcohol at any given point. So for something that's been a part of my life for this long, and all of my experiences have been uber positive with it, I've never had a negative experience with cannabis. There was the cheesecake though, where we went through a whole cheesecake in about 4 hours. That was bad. But outside of the cheesecake incident, everything was kind of okay, right? So I look forward to seeing more women in this industry, and I definitely look forward to seeing more Black women in this industry. And it's a great industry to be in once you get over the hurdles of, the ridiculousness it is just to be in business, right? And I've often said, people say, well, where do you hope this industry is in 5 years or 10 years? And I hope that it's boring. You know what I mean? When's the last time you've had, 2 vodka producers on a Zoom call talking about, girl, did you see my new strawberry vodka that I put out yesterday? No. Right. Exactly. No one wants to see that Zoom meeting, So, I mean, I look forward to getting to that point one day, right? But we've got a while before we get there. And I think in the meantime, we definitely are opening doors. And the Black women in this space, they're doing it. I'm really, really proud of everybody that's making things happen right now. It's pretty impressive.
Same. I'm always so amazed. I remember with the Women Grow Summit, I think it was 3 years ago now. And that was so exciting. There were so many of us in one room. And it just felt so empowering. That was one of the first times that I think I really stepped into the woman I knew I could be. And I remember that. And I remember you saying something to me that day, and that was the first time I was in person. So the energy was just so great. Yeah, I'm like feeling it now, and I mean, I'm so excited you were able to come on today. And I mean, this was like an awesome conversation. We talked about a lot of different stuff. Hopefully we didn't throw everybody through too many. Keep up, Hey, you gotta keep up with us. But if anyone has any questions, drop them in now. But yes, if you want to find Wanda, we have her handles going below us. Wanda, is anything else you want to share with our audience?
I think the only big thing that I would say that I would starting to share is Simply Pure is getting ready to change. We are getting ready to look at moving nationwide. We're looking at a franchise model. We want to be able to take the dispensary and what we've learned over the last 10 years and really be able to hand it to hopefully Black and brown people that are interested in getting into the industry. that want to take, the concept and move with it. We want to be able to basically hand it over and start having I hate using the word franchises, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's cannabis, it's different when you bring that on. And I don't want us to be, what I've told my team is we will not be predatory, and we want to be the dolphins in every deal. And when I say dolphins, which is the opposite of sharks, we want people to be happy that we're their partners. I never want to be the partner like some of the folks that I've had that, want to skin every dime off of you to be able to, help you move in a good direction. We really want to be able to use the brand to be able to uplift other folks that are doing it. So that's going to be the big thing for us. You know, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. People must be seeing us on here. Uh, to be able to move that forward. So if we're able to accomplish that, then, I'd feel really good to be able to see Simply Pure do something very different than, where it started off. So that's our big thing for next year or for this year.
Well, I'm excited to, like I said, I'm always inspired by your growth and your progress, and I'll be right here supporting and watching as always.
You are amazing.
You are too. You are too. Thank you so much for taking up 45 minutes or so of your time.
Thank you.
I know everybody really appreciates these talks and just seeing different perspectives and hearing your thoughts. So I really appreciate it.
And congratulations to you for doing this. This is fantastic.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Wanda. I'll have you back soon.
Thanks, Hope. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, everybody, I hope that you really enjoyed this. I loved catching up with Wanda, one of my good friends in the space. Like she said, there's not that many of us. We all know each other. And I'm thankful that I have the support of them, that they'll come on and we can share our experiences with you. So with that, I hope you guys have an awesome night, and we'll see you next week with another episode with some really great dispensary owners. All right, so happy Black History Month. Oh, last thing. If you want to come into the shop tomorrow or Friday, you'll get 15% off your order if you order online. The code is below, I believe. Yep. BHM James. So that's the code. Use that online only. You'll get 15% off of your entire order. All right. BMH James. All right. Have a good night, everyone.